You know, believe it or not, I've been wrong about a lot of things in my life. Investing in Florida real estate, investing in crypto, investing in a communications degree, investing in general. But I've also been wrong about the caged chord system. I remember like when, I first started becoming like a guitar YouTuber, Caged was making the rounds. Everybody was talking about Caged. And every time I heard somebody explain it, it's like, yeah, I get it. It makes sense to me, but like, I don't know. I just wasn't about it because I never really had a visual for it. So I've been a bit of a Caged hater in the past. And then Noisy Clan sent me this. This is the guitar chord compass that is essentially just a visual display of a practical use of the caged chord system. Comes with a book and stuff. I'm going to talk about this. I've done some videos with them in the past on their Circle of Fifths wheel, which is incredible. I'll link you to that if you guys are interested. But let's talk about caged real quick, all right? So, there are 5 letters in the word caged, C-A-G-E-D, and those are basically just the letters that signify major chords, right? So, C major, A major, G major, E major, D major. Caged. Right? Now, one of the things that I first was like initially resistant to for this was like, well, these chords don't really sound good together, right? But that's not the point. But anyways, it's like C to A to G to E to D. Well, the point is that you probably already know those chord shapes, and if you don't, this decoder has them at the bottom of this compass. But how they work in order, okay? So I think the way that this has helped me visualize probably a more practical way to use caged, which may be the way that most people have been using caged the whole time, and I've just been wrong. Please let me know in the comments if that's true. Is to think of it in order, right? C-A-G-E-D, okay? So if I play those voicings of a C major chord, it looks like this. I get a C here, right? The A voicing of C here, the G voicing of C here, the E voicing of C here, and the D voicing of C here, okay? So that's actually super valuable and probably the best way to learn guitar. But what it is just finding a different voice, finding a different way to play the same chord, the same triad, right? A triad is a 3-note chord. I'm just using C as an example because we're starting with the C in caged. All right, so we have a C, an E, and a G. And now these voicings and kind of connecting them together in this way is a great way to find those notes all over the neck, okay? So what I mean by an A chord voicing of C, it's really just have the A major, right? A sharp or B flat, B, C. Basically just the 5th fret on the D, G, and B strings. That's my C major chord voicing in an A shape, okay? So once I start to combine that, C to C, C as a C shape, C as an A shape. It's like, all right, now this is a connection that makes sense to me. And I was one of those people that learned on like, pentatonics first, right? Like, oh, C major, the relative minor of C is A minor. So, A minor pentatonic would be right there. And then it's like, okay, well, that's something right there. But those are kind of 2 different ideas that I learned to stack, right? Which, in a roundabout way still helped. I do think that maybe it'll make more sense more quickly if you have a visual like this, which you can get a discount on this with the affiliate code in the description. Because it's like, all right, well now I see this, and then right here in my mind's eye, I used to see this as kind of like the left half of A minor pentatonic, right? But really it's like that's just the A shape that connects with that. And then if we go to the G as a C chord, right? Here's a G chord, but just now my middle finger's on the 8th fret of the E string. That's like a C major chord, albeit you can't use the open strings. I mean, you can use the open strings if you want that D in there, so technically getting like a C at 9, whatever. The shape is what's important, okay? Now, one of the things I used to not really agree with caged was the actual shapes that they've used. So what I mean by that is like this isn't really a super effective voicing of C major on a guitar. It's more of a visual companion. Again, it works because the open strings are in this key. That'll help you out, right? So it does work, but not the voicing I would choose. One thing that I think is super helpful, and something that this chord compass actually kind of helps you suss out, is let's say I go to that A shape of a C, where it's just the 5th fret. Well, I can connect this to the G shape. If I'm thinking of this to this in my mind's eye, it's like, okay, that makes sense. But I would rather go from this A shape to this G shape here. Right? Because, again, if I think of just like, all right, 8, E, 7, A, 5, 5, 5, and then 8. Well, now this is a closed shape that kind of helps me out more. And then I can, make this a C major 7 just by kind of going back a fret. This would be an extension chord. That's the nice thing about this, is it comes with a companion book that actually shows you how to make extension chords and augmented chords and suspended chords and stuff like that. So it really is just like a chord compass that shows you a lot of different things through the prism of the CAGED chord system, which, again, my whole thing about CAGED is like, all right, this is like a cool idea of connecting stuff, but it doesn't really, it's almost like I saw it as like a gimmick in the musical theory space. But if you kind of see it as a prism through which to look at other things, I think it makes more sense. So I want to show you actually how this works on a different key. So basically there's a slider here, and you can slide back and forth between whichever key you're in. So we're going to start with just E, right? Just because it's one of the letters in the CAGED system, which I wanted to talk about. But now we're starting with E, right? Now I think what's cool, what really helped me visualize this with this decoder specifically was starting on a different letter in CAGED and then going through it, right? So almost kind of like moving the CAG to the back. So it would be like EDCAG would be this system, because we start on E, right? And then we go to the D shape of E, which is right here, right? So there's E major, D shape, and then the E major C shape, which now we're looking at this. Now, this is an interesting key because there's a G sharp in the key of E, so I can't use that open G string to really help me out. So that's where the closed voicingness that you can kind of like string together with CAGED comes into play, right? So like I've got my C shape on the 7th fret of the A string, which is an E, and as long as I don't get that open G string, I'm good. But then that leads me right into the A-shaped E, which is the 9th fret, right? So a couple different ways to look at this. You can look at this as C to A in the CAGED shape. I just kind of think of this as like a space here, right? So there's my major 3rd there, and then I can kind of get that triad move here. And that's all just E major. But, seeing it through the CAGED prism, C, A, and then like I did before, is you can just put your pinky down 3 frets higher, and there's your G shape, or right here, right? See, there's the G major shape. Again, I'm still thinking of it as the A shape with your pinky extended 3 frets. But I think this really helps you out, just kind of knowing where you are spatially on the guitar, anywhere. So no matter what chord voicing you use, you can string it together sequentially in the CAGED format just by starting on whatever, right? So let's just go through, we can slide this to any key that we want, but I think a great exercise is to just go through any of the notes in CAGED and start there, right? Let's start with A. Let's go aged C, right? So we start with the A shape here, and then it's like, all right, well now I want to get a G-shaped A chord. Now remember, I can just do this, pinky up, or that leads me to this right here. There's that G shape. A, G, right? Now we're gonna go E. E is right here. So I'm making this connection with like, all right, thinking of like a bar chord right here. So there's the E, and then it's like, all right, there's the D shape right there, and then I gotta get my C shape right there. okay? So that's, you know, a different way to kind of go with them sequentially. I do think that my one revision to CAGED would be to take the E shape and replace it as an F shape. So the Sean Daniel version would be CAGED. Because I think that it's like, if you look at like an E major shape, right? Open, 2, 2, 1, open, open. I do think that you get a little more utility just going 1 fret higher and getting, you know, either the middle 4 of an F major shape or even the bottom 5 or all 6, right? Because it's essentially the same thing, right? E major to F major. And then utilizing this, you kind of see how you can do more solo stuff, all right? So if I go back to the key of E, right, which is what I have the slider on right now, I can maybe like, all right, what do I want to do here? I can take that kind of E there. So I've got this here, and like I said earlier when I talked about like minor pentatonic, you know, this is always going to lead you into what is a very player-friendly position, right? So you can almost think of like the A in the CAGED shape as giving you like the relative minor spot, right? And I, for whatever stupid reason, I didn't really see that visually as being something you could kind of add into the CAGED thing until I started using this compass, right? So real quick, let's just switch to a different key. I can kind of show you how this works. Let's go to... Let's just go a step off and then switch this into D. So again, what happened now, all the little spots in here moved with it. So it shows me where my root note, my 3rd, and my 5th are in every spot on the neck, okay? And then the root note just has a solid black color because those are kind of like your touchstone points for where those CAGED chords are really kind of put out, right? So if we have a D, the key of D, we'll look at this as our open spot, decage. That makes more sense. So here's my D chord right here, and then I can go into my C shape, right? Which I always love doing anyways, is from C to D. So there's D, and then I can start doing a CAGED thing from here. C, A, G, and then the E shape right here, and that brings me back to D here, okay? So all that stuff is just really kind of shown on the chord compass, which, you know, it's funny, it's like, having it open and just looking at it, you kind of see these connections in maybe ways that you haven't seen them before, but then it's just really easy to just like move the slider and then all of a sudden you're like in a different key that you like, you know, maybe you aren't as familiar with. But shout out to Noisy Clan for sending me this. It's kind of funny. These guys are great. They're a small company. They're based out of Scotland. Just cool guys. I met them at NAMM, and that led to that Circle of Fifths video, which a lot of people really found helpful. So, you know, thanks to them. But yeah, I just think it's kind of cool. It makes like a really great gift just having these, you know, relatively inexpensive little kind of guides that will just help you kind of cheat and just do stuff a really super simple way. So yeah, my philosophy on CAGED has finally changed, mostly just because I understand what they're trying to get at now. But it really did take this to help me put it together. Just like, all right, it's not about these as different chord shapes. It's about these as just being connectors into different things, right? Another thing about the book is they can like show you how to do this from major to minor. So instead of having it be caged, it's like kmam, right? It doesn't have the same ring to it, but essentially you just take all the threes in here because it has this labeled where the fifth and the third is, and you just flatten the third, right? So it's easy enough to think about. It's like, all right, if I'm in A minor, right? So instead of going A, I go to A minor. Well, in CAGED, like, what's the next thing? So it's like, I remember how to go from the A to the G shape, like from here to here. Well, it's like, all right, well, maybe it's like I can make that same connection, but now I just flatten the third and everything else is still the same, right? So I think it's super handy having a visual companion to any kind of music theory thing. I'm a visual learner myself. I wish I could have had more visual advice with my crypto and Florida real estate Hurricane Alley investments. that are struggling right now, but you know what? We can't have it all, right? Best we can do is just kind of play around, do that CAGED system, have some fun, and then just, make one connection. I think that's the thing. If you can make one connection every time you sit down and practice, even if it's just like the G to the E in the CAGED system, right? Like let's go back to C. Every time you see that G shape, maybe that's not the most effective shape, but it teaches you that E is right there. Or if you're like me, make that E an F. And then that's more rife and, just ready for inflections and stuff like that. So anyways, thank you again to Noisy Plant for sending this over. Like I said, there is a discount code in the description if you guys are interested in that. But yeah, let me know what your experience has been with the CAGED system. If I'm just like a total idiot for not really understanding it until I was able to see this. That would be great. And if you have any questions or comments, hit me up in the comment section or the website, and I will talk to y'all soon.